Hello and welcome to Lofty Pursuits and Public Displays of Confection in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm Greg and Jake is making candy today, and we're going to ask the question, where did the idiom blowing a raspberry come from? Because it seems to have nothing to do with raspberries. But it does. These fruit drop rollers are a little different than most of the ones we have. You see, these raspberry rollers are asymmetrical. The top and bottom are distinctly different, and they create the top and the bottom of the raspberry. And this is cool because when you put one of these in your mouth, it kind of feels like a raspberry because you get that three-dimensional shape you don't even realize you connected with it. This is sort of like the Stroop effect that we covered in our video number 73. And while I've found studies that cover flavors and colors with this Stroop effect, I haven't found any that covers texture. So I find these interesting. The flavor and color was added when the candy was in the pot, but Jake now sprinkles on some citric acid that'll give it just a little tang and make it taste more raspberry-like. I've always been fascinated with words and the origins of them, and sometimes words can be confusing, so let me give you 3 words to think about. Entomology, etymology, and entomology. Etymology is of course the study of bugs, etymology is the study of words, and entomology is the study of snack cakes. And while the third study might be useful, we're going to concentrate on the second study and go back to the origin of blowing a raspberry, because it has a fascinating story, one that takes British television, British censors, American TV, and the paranoia of movie studios all together to add a term to the English language that's an unusual term in the first place. So while Jake flips the candy to even the temperature and lets it drip, he needs to get it all to the right consistency to go through the machine clearly. Let's go back to the early days of television. Television was on, and like the early internet, it was struggling for content. It could make some, but it needed more than it could make. And the movie studios in the United States were not being cooperative. They were scared of television. They were afraid it was going to destroy their business, so they didn't want to license them their blockbusters. They did license them monster movies that they thought they'd never show again, like The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which will be in another video, by the way. And they also did old films like The Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, and our gang, sometimes known as the Little Rascals. But what they ended up doing was leaving an opening. But American television found a solution. That was England. You see, the British film companies didn't see a threat from the American film companies. In post-World War II, and for many years after that, people in the United States got their first real exposure to British movies. And it was a good one. And we absorbed accents. We considered the British accent cool. I think it paved way to the British Revolution in music and the acceptance of it here in the United States. But it also added words to the lexicon, and one of them was blowing a raspberry. That sound that you make when you're disappointed with things, sometimes known as the Bronx cheer. The writers in British films started using terms like blowing raspberries because there were censors in the British film system, and they were pretty major, cutting things out. These censors were originally employed during World War II to censor letters, movies, to keep information from going to the enemy. But after the war, they found a job censoring films for the public's quote-unquote protection. And the directors and writers found this stifling. So they try to get around this by putting things in the censors didn't know, but the public might. And one of the things they used was London rhyming slang, sometimes known as Cockney rhyming slang. If you're not familiar with it, it's 2 words that rhyme with another to confuse the upper classes and the police. So table and chair would mean stare, but you wouldn't say table and chair, you just say table. You'd have to know stare to get to chair. And for another example is frog and toad being road. Well, there you've had a term, raspberry tart. And if you think for a second, you might be able to figure out what raspberry tart rhymed with. Fart. So because London used rhyming slang and people knew it, the movies could use it to get around the censors in England. When the movies came to the United States, they were shown on American television because the television companies couldn't get American movies, and a term entered the English lexicon that meant the term that the sound blowing a raspberry makes. And I love it came full circle. There's the Golden Raspberry Award that now gives awards for bad movies, and the name of that award has the same linguistic origins as the name for sticking your face in a baby's belly and making a funny noise that makes it laugh. And if you haven't figured it out already, there's a reason why these candies are called drops. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please go to our website, www.pd.net. You can order this candy and try it and its mouthfeel and flavor for yourself. It's part of our berry assortment, which also has blackberry and blueberry drops in it. If you're ever heading to Tallahassee, we're right off the Thomasville Road of exit of I-10. We make candy a lot of times, and you may be lucky to see us do it, but we don't make it all the time, and we don't have a regular schedule. You can also subscribe to us here on YouTube and ring that bell. We make a lot of videos, and you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and now Patreon. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can also get podcasts from Greg. And yes, that's me. And this only leaves one question. Why are raspberries sometimes colored blue? And that is for another video.